Hey, it's another installment of Skip's Sauntering Snippets. Today a little bit of a downer one, unfortunately. There's been another mass shooting at an elementary school down in Texas. And my thoughts and prayers are with all of the families that are affected by this. Not those of the deceased, but all the parents now that have to deal with what their small children saw as this 18-year-old, most likely mentally ill person has wreaked upon that community. And of course, the left is already going after common sense gun laws as if anything is going to stop. A crazed shooter is just yet one more law to break. I really do have a problem with the mentality that an inanimate object is going to kill somebody or even harm somebody. I've left my firearms in the same positions they've been in for years and years. Unless I go to the range, nothing ever happens. And that's the point that the anti-gunners, the gun grabbers, the anti-Second Amenders, the common sense people are always bringing up. That it's not the person, it's the gun. That without the gun, they wouldn't be able to do that kind of mayhem. Yeah, well, unfortunately, that's not true either. Like the Oklahoma bombing or the fires that have been set too. But where there's a will, there's a way. And if somebody thinks that they want to go out in a blaze of glory and fame, they're going to find a way to do it that doesn't involve guns. I even noticed that Brett Baer on Fox News last night was talking about common sense gun laws. There are no common sense gun laws. There aren't. There's the Second Amendment, and of course the 10th Amendment allows states to set their own as long as they don't offend or are repugnant, term from my friend Dan, to the U.S. Constitution. But here's the problem. It's not about the guns. It's not about the caliber. It's not about how many rounds are in a magazine or whether this is attached to a gun or that's attached to a gun. Most mass killings are done with handguns. Very few are ever done with long guns or rifles. And it really isn't about the guns, again. There are a lot of mentally ill people out there that have some kind of grudge, one way or the other, against a certain person or a certain set of people. But a lot of it I'm going to blame on the culture. It is the culture. You know, I have a picture back at home on the laptop ready to put up, and it was encapsulated real gun safety. It was about, a young boy in elementary school holding a long rifle, being taught in class this is how to properly handle a rifle, a handgun, and how not to use it. That was back probably in the 40s or 50s. Even back in the 60s, high school boys used to have hunting rifles in their trucks and think nothing of it because after school they'd go hunting. Now, these kids, these young men, would be popped into jail after being arrested because of zero tolerance. The problem is the culture. And even as the left is all claiming about taking away our rights to defend ourselves with firearms, they very rarely will acknowledge that it is they themselves that have changed the culture to the worse. Let's just face it, I can summarize it by saying life has been devalued, both at birth to where the left, because of their pro-abortion / pro-death, as I talked about on Life with Liz yesterday, their pro-death approach to a brand new life caused by the coupling of a man and a woman. And and then tossed away for whatever reason with nary a thought. Death means nothing to that young life. And then at the other end, it is the left that is pushing euthanasia, death of our elderly, and sometimes forced in other countries. There is no mistaking about it. Western culture has been devaluing life all up and down the scale. You look in our inner cities. Let's pick Chicago, South Side, one of the cities that have the most stringent gun laws in the world. Guess what? That's where a lot of the murders are happening. Every single weekend, it's a murder rate far more than most of the mass killings everywhere else by firearms. It's just that people aren't valued. People don't know their boundaries. The left has changed the morality such that I only matter, not you. And if I get disrespected, well, the left is the one that said speech is violence. Well, so is disrespect. Disrespect is violence. And that gives me leave to respond with violence of my own. And it doesn't matter. Now, have shoot-'em-up games played a role in this? Not so much with adults, although I'm not a psychologist, I can't tell you exactly why. But I can say that perhaps with little kids that are used to hitting the reset when they die in some of these video games, that it's just as easy because they don't understand. But that doesn't hold to an 18-year-old. We have a lot of anger, a lot of me versus you, where the other person doesn't matter anymore. So if I take them out, no big deal. And the left condones it. Just look at how many people were killed in the Black Lives Matter riots last summer. How much personal property was damaged, businesses ruined, lives ruined. It just seems more and more that the culture says, me, 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 and I can do whatever I want, whenever I want. And that's the real problem here. It's not the gun, it's just a tool. So's a car. Look what happened when that person in Christmas ran through that crowd with a van. It's what's going on in the mind, not the calibers going into the magazine. Until the left realizes their own complicity in changing the culture for the worse, this is going to continue and continue. People just aren't going to do it. And and I will place it this way: as you take God out of society, the idea that there's a supreme being that one day we will all have to answer to, we have become our own gods, at least on the left. Those of us on the right who are believers understand that we are responsible for our actions, should be held accountable for our actions, either here or in the hereafter, when we stand before that throne and go, yes or no, and be judged accordingly. For those that don't believe in it and act the way that they do in the ganglands and the shootings and in this tragedy down in Texas, there is no accountability. The people who are being held accountable are we, the law-abiding people, simply because we have guns and we believe in a right that they wish to take away. This is a sobering Sauntering Snippets. Hate to be a downer, but let's put the blame where the blame should lie. And that's with those who have changed our culture so as to devalue life by any means possible, either with a pill, a gas, forceps, a knife, or a gun. Until next time.
Crop tape.